All right, our final presentation today is with Meir Magal from Magal Engineering, and what we wanted to achieve is to allow procurement and up-armourers, if you like, as well, very much so, to understand the issue of homologation, the testing according, in this case, the relevance is in relation to the European road standards. And there are countries whereby you need to be able to show that there were certified tests that verify and confirm that the mobility characteristics of the vehicle do comply with EU regulations. And if you can show that evidence, then there's a high likelihood that you can get Ministry of Transportation approval to drive the vehicles on the public roads. In the olden days, people would say, look, it just has to be able to be driven, and it was a very loose specification. More and more now, procurement agencies are asking for verifiable data that, in fact, it does comply. So we've asked Meir to come and join us today. He is actually he's based in Israel, and he is the DECRA point of contact representative in Israel, and is able to then do those tests and also be able to share his experiences. So we look forward to your presentation. Thanks, Meir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Rob. My presentation will be regarding homologation, basically. Our company are dealing in two main areas. One is vehicle testing, and the second one is homologation. We are used to run European homologation, basically, but also a US homologation based on European standard. This is a little bit complicated, but the US vehicle is working according to FMVSS, and the European is a little bit different, but not so much. Why homologation? It's a good question. You have to pay money, and what you get. I think that the main reason is safety. Safety and safety and any certification of the reliability of the vehicle. In many countries that armored vehicles are sent to, not require any homologation. I think I can say, I guess, most of the countries are not need any homologation. But I think that the company that send the vehicle to those countries would like any level of safety. So I just remind everybody that we have 3 different levels. The first one, of course, is the WVTA, and the second one is the small series, and the last one is the individual type approval, which actually that's what we are mainly running for Israel and for abroad. There is one more level, which is what we are calling test report, which is very common for vehicle which is sent to country which not require homologation. So we are running a safety procedure just to make sure that the vehicle is safe to be driven on the country where the vehicle is sent to. some important note regarding the homologation is that most of the vehicles that we are familiar are going above the GVW of the manufacturer. It can be sometimes twice the GVW of the vehicle, and sometimes can be a little bit less. And we, according to our experience on the last 20 years, we understand that the homologation is a little bit tricky. To homologate vehicle, it's not so complicated, but it's strongly depend how much you are deviate from the GVW and how. Just for example, when you are armored vehicle, the weight can be 50% more. But how you are take the difference between the front axle and the rear axle? Or how you take care for the stability of the vehicle? Which type of testing the armor company are apply? So we understood according to the many hundreds of vehicles which we are running, that we need to do homologation based on requirement, of course, and we have our own protocol of homologation, which is above the requirement of the ECE or above the requirement of the FMVSS, which we found that in most cases, when we are running the homologation, it's not enough. I can give some note what is important. Weight, of course, many people are mentioned the weight. The stability. I just remind you that the manufacturer of the vehicle, most of the vehicle which we look today was OEM vehicle. And the stability, for example, are designed for the GVW, not to double the GVW. We tested a week ago Toyota Land Cruiser, which all of you are known, it's about 3,200 kilogram GVW, and it was about 6,400, okay? And this was from a European company. And when we looked at the vehicle, we said, no, we don't want to touch it. Take it to another company. We are not dealing with such a vehicle. At the end of the day, we make the testing, and we find that we are on the limit. So the question is, the customer would like to drive a vehicle 6 years, 10 years, we can discuss the lifespan of the vehicle. But would you like to run the vehicle on the edge of the stability and the braking? I'm not talking about steering force, I'm not talking about noise level or in some other aspect. We try to understand before we start testing where the vehicle is, in which condition the vehicle is intended to work. It's very important if the vehicle is be driven on a flat area or in mountain. Big difference for us, not big difference for the customer, but big difference for us, because we pay attention for difference issue while we are testing the vehicle. And again, the vehicle can meet the requirement after the armoring, after the additional weight, it can meet the requirement of the homologation. But we are coming to the customer and tell him, okay, you got the certification, but be aware, the vehicle will not last for 2-3 years. No way. So one more important aspect, especially for civilian armor company, is the struggle between comfort and stability. Not many people pay attention to this issue, but when you are talking about stability, you pay a lot of on the other side of the comfort, and vice versa. If you would like a comfort because it's a VIP people, or it's an embassy, or it is an ambassador, you are paying, and you would like to have a comfort vehicle, you are paying on the stability. Any way you look at it. Another issue is the driver license, but I put it aside because it's not a big issue. We try to look, while we are running the homologation, if the vehicle will run on-road or off-road or both, and try to understand how the vehicle will be used daily. Because if the vehicle is working all over the day, and if the vehicle is working only 1 hour a day, it's a big difference. And again, you have to take in consideration the area where the vehicle will work, how long it will work a day. I mean, we consider, based on our experience, what is the maintenance frequency, okay? Because we are look to the result of our testing, and I will give 2 examples, which is safety, is stability and braking. While you are looking to the braking, the vehicle will, as I said before, it will meet the requirement, but it will not last for, let's say, 100,000 kilometers. So you have to consider the difference between the front axle and the rear axle. For us, it's same. It's matter if we brake inside the requirement, but the big difference between the front axle and the rear axle, because after 2,000 kilometers, you will lose your brake, even if you meet the requirement. And in the stability, we are now, when the vehicle became smarter and more features, when you are taking the vehicle more than the GVW, you are paying a lot in the electronic stability control. And I give nice example. Daimler Mercedes G-Wagon, when you are making the stability test, it block you on 65, between 60 to 70 kilometers per hour. You cannot go the ISO 3881 on 80 kilometers per hour without braking inside the maneuvering track. Not many people pay attention to that. And when you will appear to the event, when people will run to your street and you want to maneuver the vehicle will, the ESP will stop you. So this is very important issue, just as an example. Take aside the GSR, the Global Safety Requirement 1 and 2, and it's became much more complicated. In the next 5 years, I believe, all the vehicle will be equipped with the features of the GSR and much more. I believe in much more. So how you test it? Currently, there is no specific requirement for the GSR. So if you would like to test like today, that is nice. But you must be prepared. We must be prepared for the next 4 or 5 years. And for us, it's a little bit easy because we are dealing a lot with autonomous vehicle with big company in Israel, like Mobileye and like the GM R&D center, which is a huge one. So we run a lot of tests with them with autonomous vehicle, which is not related to what we are talking now. But we understand the problem which company will meet in the future. As I said before, we arrived to the conclusion that we must prepare for ourselves our own protocol, which is, we call it Magal protocol, but we look to this protocol in degrees of additional weight and with the degree of additional features of the GSR. And based on that, I just give here an example of the additional weight. But who is responsible for the chassis strengths? It's a big question. If we test the vehicle, we are responsible, or the company which built the vehicle is responsible, or the technical service of the nation where the vehicle is operated? Who is responsible? It's a big question. And we, for us, are running the procedure based on the additional weight of the vehicle. And if you take, for example, passenger vehicle like, it's not passenger, it's for passenger like Sprinter, like Mercedes 519, which is very common, especially in Israel, but all in the Middle East. People are drive this vehicle 8 tons. It's a huge number. It's a huge number. And he take students, he take employees, he take... And the vehicle is not built for this weight. It's not built for this weight. No additional reinforcement are made to the vehicle. And I'm almost sure, not sure because I didn't check it, that many of the Land Cruiser or some other vehicle which we saw today, are without any reinforcement to the chassis, not to the suspension, not to the braking, but to the chassis of the vehicle. I'm almost sure. My experience, I didn't meet any of the UN armored vehicle in Israel which the chassis is reinforced. None of them. And I saw so many cracks and problem with those vehicles, which is unbelievable. And they take the vehicle and sway it away from Israel and bring a new one. Somebody pay for that. So we make our own weight, we call it weight category or own protocol. And unfortunately, many of the vehicles which we saw are sitting on the 50% more. Again, Toyota Land Cruiser, double the weight of the vehicle, double the weight of the GVW, not the payload. The payload is about 700 kilograms. You take vehicle of 3.3 ton and you run it. Most of the vehicle of the UN in Israel and in the broadcast company, which are, the Toyota is very common in their operation, running between 5.5 to 6 ton. Unbelievable. And a lot of crack. And and the suspension is all the problems that you can imagine they meet in Israel. So again, a key consideration for us is basically the stability, but comfort as well. And we found that if we would like to give a good test protocol or a good certification, not just to give the paper of the certification, this is not so complicated, but to give added value to the client that come to us and ask for homologation, we give him two options. Run the homologation, what we are doing the homologation, we take all the 71 directive of the ECE, take everyone and say, it's modifying the vehicle, yes or no, what was modified and impact the vehicle, we have to test it and to make sure it's meet the requirement of the ECE regulation, which is the ECE directive. Unfortunately, the directive of, I will talk about the safety, especially because we have not time to go over all the 71 protocols, don't change in the last 15, 20 years. The requirement from braking still remain the same. Maybe it will change. It's not fit. It's not relevant to armored vehicle. If vehicle go from 3.3 ton to 5.5 ton, it changed the category from M1 to M2, just for example. So we all the time test every such vehicle for M1 anyway. If you not meet the requirement, we are coming back to the client and say, would you like us to move to the M2? Because actually it's now M2, it's not M1. The vehicle starts as M1. After armoring, it's go to M2. And this is the same like the Suburban, which we test a lot of them. The Suburban start 3,900. They make, in the end of the 20, they make vehicle with 5 ton. But I think, I'm not sure about it, but I think that no more produce those vehicles, which was modified, especially for the front axle. And we found a lot of problem with all those Suburban in Israel, a lot of problem of safety. I'm not talking about the other problem. I'm talking about the safety only. And the question is, what would you like to get? Would you like to get a paper? It's okay, no problem. Would you like to get a real report? It must be a, let's say, Magal protocol. But not many are willing to pay. To make analysis to the chassis, I need to scan the chassis. I need to build the DXF model. I need to run the analysis, dynamic finite element analysis. Then I need, based on that result, I need to make the test, strain gauges, accelerometer, etc. And then to understand what is the problem of this vehicle with the additional weight. And every time that we are running those procedures, we are found that we need to make a reinforcement activities. Anytime. One of the big questions, and it's also mentioned in this day here, is the speed of the vehicle. just before half an hour, they mentioned that the vehicle it trained the vehicle for 100 kilometers per hour. It's nice. But armored vehicle, especially for ambassador, embassies, VIP, they're driven 150, 140, no problem. On flat area, you can run. Just ask yourself, what about the braking and the stability? So we determine our procedure to try to meet this challenge. I would like to show you some small example between ISO 3881 stability test and the procedure which is very common in the US, which is the fishhook, which we adopt this procedure, and you understand. This vehicle runs the 3881. You can't see in the movie the applying of the ESP. You can't see. But when you drive or when you look to the result of our VBox, this is our testing instrumentation, you see it immediately. No problem. So what we are doing, we run this test. Same vehicle. This is the fishhook procedure, which is definitely different from the European standard. Definitely different, but give much more information for those armored vehicles when you are talking about stability. Much more information. Because from the ISO 3881, we can understand the speed of the maneuvering of the track, and we can understand when the ESP is activated. But you have no information about very sudden maneuvering, no information. And this is much more important for armored vehicle, especially when it's a heavy vehicle. Especially when it's a heavy vehicle, because the performance is lower. We are running homologation also for special vehicle which has no category in the homologation procedure. But it's really challenging to test such a vehicle, which this is for civilian army, civilian fire forces. It's very challenging to test this vehicle because you are dealing with the directive which you need to test this vehicle, but this is just for final. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Magal, for that. It's Meir. Sorry, it's a bit of it's one of these black magic items. People hear about homologation and the testings, and in some cases people are doing it, other cases not. But it's a very complex issue for people to get their head around. So thank you for giving us an introduction to some of the issues at hand. Are there any questions? As to the content? Yes, indeed.
Hello. Just to be clear, the 38881 test, in the European directive, that's we used to call that the moose test, no? Where the extreme lane change, stability. But that's exactly why ESP systems were introduced and activated to maintain stability. What's the problem with having that ESP used as part of stabilizing the vehicle in an emergency situation?
You're right. We don't like the ISO. It's very common in Europe and very common in our country, but we don't like it. The ISO is something it's coming from the 70s. No change from the 70, 50 years ago. And one more important issue, it's not a directive. Not in the European homologation, not in the US homologation. It's not appear. Also the FISHUK, it's not. FISHUK, it's something from the beginning of year 1001. There is a huge project which all the company in Europe was involved to suggest the best procedure for stability testing. And all the Europeans say the ISO is a very good one. All the European company, I think only Volvo say no. But all the American companies say ISO. Maybe it's struggle between the US and the European perspective, but the FISHUK, it's something that was developed it was a huge project in the US. And the FISHUK, I think, according to our experience, give you the more reliable test if you are looking for stability.
If you're looking for stability of an armored vehicle with a different center of gravity and mass, yeah. Okay. But it's much more extreme because you're looking for a change of direction, 180 degree in the opposite direction to the first maneuver.
The procedure, I don't pay too much to that. The procedure of the FISHUK is much more complicated, take time, and more expensive. Because you have a procedure of calibrate the vehicle, especially if it's armor like Suburban, for example. But it's after you run the test, you get the real information.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No, I think as a sort of final comment. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Magal, one question. This short video that you presented with the fishhook maneuver, was that actually a pass or was it a failure?
The procedure of the fishhook is when the vehicle lifts the two wheels 5 centimeters, 2 inches from one side. Then it's fail. But if not, you are starting on 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 kilometers per hour. There is some vehicle, just for example, we run for Audi A8, armored vehicle, which is about 4.5 ton. We run the fishhook. It's not work. The vehicle is too good and it just spin. In speed of 130, you make just a circle. It's not lift the wheel. So this is important. Audi doesn't not run such a test. They make very good vehicle, but they never run such a test.
So I gather from that this video was a failure, right? It was slightly more than 5 centimeters, I guess. Thank you.
All right, if that's all. Oh, good.
Yeah, Mr. Magal, thank you for your presentation. You mentioned about the GSR standard. Can you elaborate a little bit about how that differs from?
Yeah, could you speak up?
Yeah,
Speak
sorry.
into the microphone.
Yeah, sorry, don't have a microphone in my hands very often. Could you elaborate a little bit about the GSR standard and how that differs from the standards that we are all used to I've never heard of the GSR. That may be my shortcoming.
The GSR, if you could describe a bit more information about the GSR. What's
GSR
involved?
is something new. It's the global safety requirement, the GSR 1, GSR 2. They are currently not on the homologation procedure. And you have to take care about it when you are running the WVTA, but we are not running WVTA, unfortunately. And I
believe for most of the people you need to explain what WVTA means, because there's no understanding yet.
WVTA is all vehicle type approval, which every vehicle in Europe must meet this requirement, and it must done by independent laboratory. Vice versa, the US run it inside the OEM. And we are working with a very big lab in the US, which called TRC, doesn't matter, which test vehicle, which take from the line vehicle and see that it meet the requirement of the FMVSS. But it's only one for, I think, 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 vehicle. I don't know exactly for what is the amount of vehicle they take for, just to see that there is no misunderstanding between the manufacturer and the homologation.
Okay, all right. Look, thank you very much for that. I think as a final comment, there is an issue that there's an awareness of homologation requirements, and from, I think, a procurement agency's perspective, it's one of comfort knowing that a vehicle has been tested and does meet, particularly in this case, European or American requirements and standards. And so that gives a peace of mind. So thank you very much for your time. On behalf of us, just a small thank you gift, and we appreciate your time. Thank you indeed.